You make videos, tag me at Rob Smith Online on all social media. I will. Okay.
Check, check, check. There we go. It's happening, bitches. Yeah! But they sure tried, didn't they? Welcome to the very first ever WalkAway LGBT Town Hall. Thank you all so much for coming, despite whatever your reasons might be for coming. Honestly, I really appreciate everyone coming out tonight, even if you came to tell us how wrong you think we are about everything, how you think that we're completely, effed up. And great, let's have a conversation. Let's have an open dialogue. Let's have a discussion. Let's not exist in a community with a unilateral point of view where people aren't allowed to dissent or have their own opinions. So let's get started. Let's just dive right in. I want to just give you kind of a rundown of how I'd like the evening to unfold, just so everybody understands. I'm going to kind of open up by telling you guys a little bit about my own personal WalkAway story and why WalkAway exists and what it is and what it isn't. Let's start there. It's not a hate group. We're not racists. We're not bigots. We're not neo-Nazis. We're not transphobic. Are we, Blaire?
I hope not.
Okay, good. And then I'd like to, after I tell a little bit about my WalkAway story and what the WalkAway campaign is, I'd like to show you all the video that I put out, which launched the campaign. After we watch the video, each panelist will have 10 minutes or so, as long as they need to tell their own story, convey to you anything that they would like to convey. I ask that you please give them the respect to just let them speak and say what they have to say uninterrupted. It's okay if you don't like what they have to say. It's okay if you have very strong feelings about what they have to say. Once they're finished speaking, we will throw to you, and this becomes an open forum. That's what a town hall is. It's a back and forth. It's a discussion. We want to hear from everybody. Last night we had the very first ever WalkAway Harlow Town Hall for the Black community. It was the first WalkAway Town Hall of any kind, and it went beautifully, actually. It was actually an evening of warmth and love and camaraderie, and it was incredible. We did learn one lesson, though, which is that we do have to put a time limit on the questions. Because some people had a lot of feelings inside that they've been storing up for 40 years. And it became a Shakespearean monologue. So we just asked that you keep the questions short so that as many people get a chance to speak as possible. So with that, let's go ahead and just dive right in. My name is Straka. My entire life, I was a liberal. Wow, I just felt really emotional because I'm talking to a crowd of my own people and I'm sharing this story.
Thank you!
Love it or hate it, this is historical. Nothing like this has ever happened before. So, my entire life I was a liberal, and my entire adult life I voted Democrat. And the reason why was largely because I'm gay. And I didn't put a hell of a lot more thought into it than that. When I was growing up in a rural town in Nebraska, a tiny little farm town, the messages that I got repeatedly were that Republicans hate gay people, that conservatives hate LGBT people, that they don't like black people, that they don't like brown people, that they're racist, that they're prejudiced, that they're bigots. And that was really unfortunate because most people I grew up with were Republicans. So when I graduated from high school, I couldn't wait to get the hell out of that little town and run as fast as I could to New York City, where I felt like I would be accepted and embraced and that I could finally be myself for the first time in my whole life. And I did. I came to New York, and obviously it's not difficult to do, but I fell in with a very liberal crowd, and I became a part of the LGBT community. And so I just always thought that I should be a Democrat because I thought the Democratic Party is the party that cares about us. It's the party for the underprivileged. It's the party for the minorities in America who don't get a fair chance and who are constantly victimized and who are constantly oppressed by people on the right. And so I went in and voted Democrat every time that I voted in an election. And I just kind of went along with the liberal ideology in lockstep. And by that I mean, you know, during a time in our history when we were fighting for not just basic civil rights, but I mean really fighting for dignity, just basic human dignity. I feel like liberalism in general ends up being a group of people who fall on a spectrum of victimhood and sort of interchange favors with one another because they're supporting one another. I feel like it's an unspoken system. I found myself automatically going along that being pro-life is oppressive to a woman's right to choose because liberal women were telling me that they were looking out for my rights as a gay man to get married. And so I thought, well then I have to be pro-abortion. I didn't really think about it. I didn't think why. I didn't think what the implications of abortion were. And I'm not even taking a stand on that right now in this moment today. What I'm saying is that I didn't think about it at all. I just thought, well, yeah, I'm pro-abortion because liberal women are pro-abortion and liberal women support me. And I'm pro-illegal immigration because liberals are for the idea that anybody should be allowed in this country, whether they come in legally or not. And people on the right are all racists and bigots, and that's the reason why they don't want these people to come into our country, or that they want them to leave this country if they didn't come in legally. So I support that. I support illegal immigration. I mean, this is how much thought that I was putting into the basic political issues that I think people go into the polls and vote for. And as the years went by, I started to find the ideology of liberalism changing, but I didn't really understand that that was what was happening. I started to hear more about privilege and victimhood and oppression. And suddenly I started to hear more and more and more about these different categories of privilege that, interestingly, when I was growing up, and I'm of a certain age, and it ain't my 20s, and it ain't my 30s.
What?
No, but I mean, like, you know, one would think that if, let's say, white privilege were such a prevalent and oppressive problem in our society, why did we just start using that phrase 5-10 years ago? Why didn't I ever hear that in the 80s? Why didn't I ever hear that in the 90s? Why now is white privilege the most important thing that we need to be discussing when I never heard people talking about that before? Have white people suddenly become more privileged than they were in the age of, we'll be taking questions after we're all finished speaking. And so I started to hear more and more about privilege and victimhood and all of these different things, and I thought, well, this is uncomfortable and weird because I'm, as a liberal, sort of expected to go along with this, but this doesn't feel right to me. This doesn't feel okay. I'm not seeing this in the way that it's being explained to me, and I'm not saying that white privilege doesn't exist. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that I think that what I felt at the time, and what I continue to think, is that there are pros and cons to being any race. And I think there are pros and cons to being any gender. And I think there are pros and cons to being straight or gay. And I don't understand why we're selecting one group of people, one race of people, and dripping resentment at this race of people, and how this helps. How does this help racism? How does this help us unify as a people? How is this helpful? But this is what liberalism started to become, more and more. No, this does exist. And if you don't agree with me, it's because you're a racist. No. Women are oppressed, and there is such a thing as a wage gap. And if you question that, it's because you're a sexist. And we're not even allowed to have an open and honest conversation about facts and numbers and statistics. And then let me tell you a few things that actually happened to me in my own personal experience. When 2015 rolled around, the Supreme Court decided that marriage equality would be the law of the land. And I was thrilled because I am an advocate for equality, marriage equality, all equality for LGBT people. And in my mind, I thought this is a brilliant thing because we as a community, and certainly those incredibly brave and strong and amazing activists from the 50s and the 60s and the 70s who did all the hard work before any of us did. Yeah, you can clap for that. Exactly. These people who lived through hell and fought through hell, and some of them died in hell. In 2015, the Supreme Court decided that marriage equality was the law of the land, and I thought to myself, this is incredible. We as a community are crossing a finish line together. This should be the greatest moment of celebration in our lives. We should all be holding hands and rejoicing and saying, oh my God, we did it. We won. We won the culture war. We did it. You know, we have equality under the law, and wasn't that what this was about all the while? But what started to happen next blew my mind. Suddenly, I started to feel like our community was actually more angry and more fragmented than ever before, and I couldn't understand this. Suddenly, I started to hear how I was privileged as a white gay man. You know, try being a trans black lesbian, try being non-binary, try being gender queer, try being, I thought, what the hell are these, like I've never even heard of these things, what is this? Suddenly there's like all these new conditions that exist that for somehow magically didn't exist for centuries before. But now that we have marriage equality, and now that we don't really need to, I'm not saying that magically, poof, homophobia goes away. Not at all. I'm not saying that transphobia goes away. No, not at all. I'm not saying that there isn't still work to be done. What I'm saying is that suddenly our community seemed more angry and fragmented than ever before. And I started to question these things. What the hell is non-binary? What the hell is gender fluid, gender queer? Like, and why are we now the queer community? What does that even mean? I don't understand. I understand gay. I understand lesbian. I understand bisexual. I understand transgender. I get all this stuff. But why do we need all these extra letters, and what the hell do they mean? Well, the fact that you even have to ask what they mean is why we need these extra letters. What the fuck does that mean? What does that mean? And so then something that happened next was around this time, the Huffington Post decided that Huffington Post Gay Voices was now going to be called Huffington Post Queer Voices. And I was outraged. I thought, let me just say, and listen, we can have a disagreement about this. I think the word queer is disgusting. I think it's disgusting. I think it's embarrassing. I think it's low rent. I think that if you're somebody who wants to call yourself queer, that's great. Don't label me queer. I don't want to be called queer. And I don't want to be a part of your queer community. So the Huffington Post decided that they were going to change Huffington Post Gay Voices to Huffington Post Queer Voices. And they put out this post on social media, and it said, we really think this is in the best interest of the community. And like, who the hell decides this? And we understand that some people may not agree with us, and that's fine. But we believe this is in the best interest of the community, and we're going to insist that queer become the new term for all LGBT people in the media, that we will insist that other media sources refer to all people as the queer community. I was outraged. And so I wrote a response on their Facebook page. I said, listen, for some of us of a certain age and a certain geographical location, the word queer is something that we do not wish to be called. And for some of us, the word queer was the last word we heard before a fist came flying at our faces. Okay?
Amen.
Yep. I started getting attacked like that by all of these people saying, well, of course you would say that using your white gay male privilege. You know, try being non-binary. If you were gender queer, if you were a black gender queer person, you wouldn't be feeling this way. You wouldn't be saying this. You know, you're That was not funny. I'm trying to be serious. And so all of these non-binary, gender fluid, and gender queer people pounced on me on Facebook and got me banned for hate speech. I got a Facebook ban because I said as a gay man I don't want to be called queer. And it was so painful because it was the first real realization I had in my life that this community, as I once knew it, was gone. It doesn't exist anymore. It's not about lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender empowerment. It's not about inclusivity and fighting together in unity for dignity in our civil rights. This has become a social justice warrior cult that has gripped the LGBT community. And when my own community is turning me in for hate speech and getting me banned, I'm the fuck out. I'm done. I don't want it anymore. Because some of you who are really young in this room may not know, but there was a time when gay people used to be really cool. Super cool, edgy, like pushing the boundaries, fighting for no censorship, free speech, like let's take this as far as we can go, and now, God help you, if you don't follow the rigid vernacular, and follow in lockstep, everything, the new rules and everything that they want you to do, they will be the first people to come after you and ban you and take your rights away and make sure that you get banned on social media and that you get discontinued from the community. And so...
They kicked out of the LGBT center.
Yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there. So this was the first strong realization that I had, that the community as I once knew it no longer existed. And I went through a very, very painful realization and a painful process of discontinuing disconnecting. I said, I can't be a part of this community. I'm gay. I'm proud to be gay. I'm just as gay as I ever will be. I was born gay, I'll live gay, and I'll die gay. And that's never going to change. But this community that I used to love and care about and fight for so much is gone. It doesn't exist the way that it used to exist anymore. Now, I voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016 because I was still drinking coolaid.
Boo!
Wow, I did not expect that reaction in this room.
All right, don't anybody start lock her up chants.
Lock her up.
I'm so proud of you guys. I voted for Hillary Clinton because I believed when I was being told that we needed a woman president. And because I believed the liberal media that for so long, I trusted. I trusted them to tell me the truth. I trusted them to protect me. I trusted that they had the best interest of LGBT people and black people and brown people at heart. It never occurred to me for a second that they were using us and manipulating our fears, manipulating our concerns, and manipulating our previous traumas in our life to get us to do what they wanted us to do and vote the way that they want us to vote and behave the way that they want us to behave. And that is exactly what they are doing to all of you who don't believe me. That's what's going on. I believe that Donald Trump was a racist. I believe that he was a bigot. I believe he was a homophobe. I believe that his followers were no better. And I was terrified when he got elected. I was terrified. The next day I got on Facebook, I made a video, I was crying. I cried for weeks afterwards because I was scared to death. Because don't act like you guys didn't either. Stop it.
No.
People are like, you did too. Shut up.
No, I didn't.
Like I said, I was just a little ahead.
I guess I walked away.
But
She shook her head. She shook her head.
I think
Wait a minute, did Blaire have something to say?
I think the difference between me and a lot of the people who have continued to go down this anti-Trump spiral for the last 2.5 years is that I legitimately wanted to understand. I didn't want to hate. I didn't want to be angry. I didn't want to cry. I didn't want to be upset. I wanted to know, how could half the country vote for somebody who's such a fucking monster? How? And why? What were you thinking? And so I was going on Facebook day after day after day posting, why did you guys do this? Why? Why? Like, no one would answer me. No one would answer me. Finally, in January of 2017, 2 months after the election, I posted on Facebook, I will never understand how you people could watch this man stand before a cheering crowd and mock a reporter's disability and still go in that voting booth and pull the lever for Trump. What the hell is wrong with you? And finally, for the first time in months, somebody answered me. It was a woman that I've known my entire life. She actually babysat me when I was a baby. She sent me a video on private message on Facebook, and she said, listen, I don't want you to rip me a new asshole here. I'm just asking, have you seen this? And she presented me with a YouTube video entitled, Debunking that Trump Mocked the Disabled Reporter. And when I saw the title of the video, I was instantly enraged. And I got back to her. I was actually excited to watch it so I could get back to her and tell her how stupid she was for falling for this like right-wing brainwashing, more of this, conservative propaganda. And so I pushed play on the video. And what I saw next was about 5 minutes of footage of Donald Trump numerous times over the years, in numerous circumstances, doing that exact same voice and that exact same gesture as he did that day when he mocked that reporter's disability. But the commonality was that in each and every circumstance, we're going to take questions when we're all finished. You absolutely will be allowed to speak when we're all finished. I promise you. The commonality was that in every circumstance, he was imitating someone who was caught in a lie, or somebody who had been caught doing something shady, or caught doing something dishonest. And I had this disconnect moment between my brain and my heart because I thought, my brain was saying, oh my God, I don't think he mocked that reporter's disability. But my heart was saying, but we hate him, but we hate him, but we hate him. And I couldn't justify those two things, so I shut my computer and I went back to sleep and I couldn't figure it out. The next day I woke up and I watched the video again, and it was clear to me. He did not mock that reporter's disability. It did not happen. Yes, he made fun of this reporter who happens to be disabled. He was making fun of the fact that he was caught in a lie. But CNN freeze-framed a moment where he's going like this and threw a banner across the bottom that said, Trump mocks disabled reporter. And I thought to myself, why the hell would they do that? Don't they understand how they're going to mislead people and the effect that that's going to have? Why would they do this? So I went around and started asking people, fellow liberals, my friends, people in the community, fellow New Yorkers, what do you make of this? Why did this happen? And I was instantly met with a wall of hostility and resentment. So what, you love Trump now? So what, you're turning to the dark side? What are you doing? What are you doing? And I said,
Oh, what a jam. Antifa?
Collusion!
and
The real
check. And so I said, so I thought to myself, so what do you make of this? And I was met with this wall of hostility and contempt. And it became very apparent to me that I was not safe asking these questions, just asking questions to people that were my friends and my own community. So what it forced me to do, because I'm a very curious person, I'm not my mother, I can't just ignore shit when it's wrong. And I love you, Mommy. Sorry. So I would get in bed at night after work and I would just read and research and start watching more videos and try to understand. And what I discovered was amazing. I found videos of black people who went to Trump rallies to support him. And when they got there, CNN moved the camera to cut them out of the shot. So it looked like only white people were there, and then they threw their banner up again to say only white people come, white supremacists at a Trump rally, blah, 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 blah. And I was discovering more and more and more how the media was lying and creating this narrative that pushes this idea that racism and homophobia and sexism and transphobia and xenophobia are these incredibly inescapable issues that surround us everywhere. And I was like, this doesn't match the reality that I seem to be seeing when I walk outside my door. I'm not getting this. And so
The media lies, the media seeks to divide. Absolutely. 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 The media seeks to divide.
And so, Rob, you threw me just then.
I kind of have to play hall monitor and get the rest of the introductions going on, because I think we got some people that are very interested in having a conversation.
So, and so I started just researching more and watching videos, and I ended up going down rabbit holes, and for the first time in my life watching, being open to listening to the conservative point of view and really understanding for the first time what conservatives believe. And what I discovered was that I actually had so much more in common with the conservative point of view, and it made so much more sense to me. It was so much less divisive and so much less about identity politics and political correctness and race baiting than what the liberals were pushing and pushing and pushing. And so, by 2018, I made a decision to walk away from the Democratic Party, and I decided that I could no longer be a part of the ideology of liberalism. And so, in early 2018, I started something called the WalkAway campaign. I created a 6-minute video explaining all of the things that I felt up until that point were wrong with liberalism and the Democratic Party, and I encouraged other people to make videos and to put them out there to create a network of support so that people would know that they weren't alone, they were the only people feeling this way. And that is what the campaign actually is, and it's not the things that so many of you have heard through the media. That is what the WalkAway campaign actually is. I want to show you my 6-minute video, and then we're going to hear from each panelist. They're going to tell your story, and we're going to open the room up to all of you guys for questions. This is my WalkAway video.
Once upon a time, I was a liberal. Well, to be honest, less than a year ago, I was still a liberal. I became a liberal because I felt I had found a tribe whose values aligned with my own. I staunchly reject racism of any kind. I reject the marginalization of any human being based off of their gender or sexual orientation. I reject tyrannical groupthink. I reject a system which allows an ambitious, misinformed, and dogmatic mob to suppress free speech, create false narratives, and apathetically steamroll over the truth. I reject the acceptance of junk science and superstition to advance ideological agendas. I reject hate. These are the reasons why I became a liberal. And these are the same reasons why I am now walking away. For years now, I have watched as the left has devolved into intolerant, inflexible, illogical, hateful, misguided, ill-informed, un-American, hypocritical, menacing, callous, ignorant, narrow-minded, and at times, blatantly fascistic behavior and rhetoric. Liberalism has been co-opted and absorbed by the very characteristics it claims to fight against. For years now, I've watched as people on the left have become anesthetized in their own prejudices and bigotry, and the prejudices and bigotry of those around them who echo their values. I have watched as formerly sensible people who claim to reject racism have come to embrace the principles of universally hating and blaming all of society's problems on all people who have white skin. I have witnessed the irony of advocacy for gender equality morph into blatant hatred and intolerance of men and masculinity. I have seen the once earnest fight for equality for the LGBT community mutate into an illogical demonization of heteronormativity and the push to vilify and attack our conventional concepts of gender. These same self-proclaimed victims of intolerance now turning on the gay community that they attached themselves to advance their agenda, now calling gay people privileged and themselves victims of injustice. I have watched as the left has allowed themselves to become hypnotized by false narratives and conclusions perpetuated by social justice warriors who misrepresent and misconstrue facts, evidence, and events to confirm their own biases that everyone who does not comply with their prejudicial conclusions and follow their orders is a racist, a bigot, a Nazi, a white supremacist, homophobic, Islamophobic, xenophobic, misogynistic, and alt-right extremist. And I've watched as they have used these heartless and carelessly assigned labels to intimidate, threaten, bully, silence, attack, unemploy, blacklist, and destroy anybody who dares to fight back. They'll come for me, and then they'll come for you. And worst of all, the Democratic Party and the liberal media has embraced, affirmed, aided, and abetted this cult ideology. In an effort to gain voters and maintain power, the Democratic Party that I once loved has joined forces with the extremist left. The Democratic Party and the liberal media now believe their own ill-gotten conclusions and have ominously decided that they, and only they, know the remedy for society's ills. The left has decided that the solution to problems with race relations in America is more racism. The left believes that attacking, insulting, and dehumanizing one group of people elevates another. The left now believes that there are no boundaries when telling lies, omitting the truth, or misrepresenting facts when telling the news, because their end justifies their means. The left has now decided that its point of view is the only acceptable one, and that suppressing, censoring, and banning open dialogue and debate is virtuous and progressive. The Democratic Party has adopted a deleterious belief system, happily and without skepticism, separating people into groups based off of identity, and then organizing them into camps of victims and oppressors. If you are a person of color, an LGBT person, a woman, or an American immigrant, the Democratic Party wants you to know that you are a victim and destined to stay that way. They will insist that you are a victim doomed to exist within a system that is rigged against you, that you are a victim of systemic oppression, that you are a victim of your circumstances, and that no amount of hard work or motivational action will ever allow you to overcome your victimhood or the privilege of those around you. This is perhaps the Democratic Party's greatest and most insidious lie. But if you are a minority in America today, the left-wing politicians and the liberal media don't want you to ever discover this lie. So they bombard us with stories designed to reinforce the narrative that you are in danger, that you cannot succeed. They manipulate your fears and concerns by telling you that you are disadvantaged, disempowered, and disposable to everyone except them. They will tell you that you need them. They will tell you that you are only safe under their supervision. They will promise to liberate you from all that chains you. And then they will do absolutely nothing for you. Once upon a time, I was a liberal. But liberalism has changed, and I will no longer be a part of an ideology or political party that represents everything that contradicts my values of unity, equal opportunity, personal empowerment, compassion, and love. So I am walking away, and I encourage all of you to do the same. Walk away.
Thank you very much. And so let's open it up to the panel. Thank you. We have tonight with us, this is Mike Harlow. We have Rob Smith, and Blaire White. Sorry, Blaire, nobody knows who you are. No, that's me. It's super embarrassing. All right, so let's get to know the panel a little bit, then we're going to open up the questions from you all, but please tell your stories.
Hey, Nazis. Look at all of these Nazis. We have gay Nazis, black Nazis, Jewish Nazis. I feel like I should say that's a joke. A joke for those fuckers at Out magazine. Anyway, I've got bullet points in case I forget what I'm going to say, but for those of you who don't know me, just like everyone except my dad, I don't know if it's different in other places, but I was born and raised in New York, and here we are raised to be leftists. We are raised to be loyal soldiers to the Democratic Party. I went to public school in Manhattan. Whoa!
Party now.
Now it's an LGBT town hall. I went to public school in Manhattan, and when I was there, the history teacher, keep that in mind, took the class on an illegal trip to Cuba to teach about how wonderful socialism is. Look it up. Anyway, something that sets me apart maybe a little bit from some of them is I feel like I'm not really a conservative, I'm not a Republican, and guess what? You don't have to be. Because what is happening right now in this room, look around this room right now, you will see every color, every sexual orientation, every gender, two. Anyway, so this all goes way beyond politics. Even back when I was a liberal, loyal Democrat my entire life. And even back then, I never felt accepted by the gay community. I just could never be myself. I was always misunderstood. And I feel like today there is an emotional and spiritual crisis amongst gay men. This toxic lifestyle that gets pushed on us from the LGBT community. And I think right now we're seeing the difference between people like us, for whom being gay is a sexual orientation, versus people for whom it is a lifestyle, who live, sleep, eat, and breathe being gay. And that is a lifestyle that leads to a miserable and lonely life. This hedonistic lifestyle of don't have relationships, do all the drugs, party your life away, bang everyone, and it's making people miserable. Also, just to take off from what Brandon said, I feel like if there's anything you need to know about, I call them the Alphabet Soup Club today, it is that they call themselves queer. This is the actual dictionary definition of queer. Worthless, questionable, suspicious, differing in some way from what is normal, of a questionable nature or character, mentally unbalanced or deranged. And it shows. Now, don't get me wrong, I am mentally deranged for many, many reasons, but not because I'm gay. Anyway, my story of how I ended up here is a little bit strange and different from some people's. This is a giant overshare, so I hope you guys are with me. So about 4 or 5 years ago, I was living in this shithole apartment in Brooklyn with like 6 roommates and had a home invasion and I was raped. All of my friends at the time, that's cool. All of my friends at the time were radical leftists. Your social justice warriors, your male feminists, your rape activists, rape culture, that's their favorite word. So anyway, so when this happened, I really thought that they would support me and have my back. So I really got to see, I got to have a front row seat to their hypocrisy in action. Their words versus their actions versus how they treat people. And every day from them I was given a lecture about how, well, women have it worse. These women who are raped over their lives, imagine how women feel. Would not even allow me to speak about it. So fast forward a while later, and I'm a writer, so I decided I was going to write a blog and come out as a rape survivor, and because it happens to a lot of guys, that, especially gay guys, and nobody knows that that's even a thing. So here I thought, and I wanted to talk about that happens to guys, and I wanted to give a perspective that is not being a victim, refusing to be a victim, because we can't help the cards that we're dealt in life. Whether you are a victim or a survivor is how you play those cards. So anyway, and I also wanted to give a perspective of as much humor as possible because it was these offensive, horrible rape jokes that made me feel better after that they want to ban. I had never in my entire life had so much cruelty and hate directed at me. It was censored, it was banned, I had thousands of email coming in from these people. They didn't like the way I was talking about it because I was saying, I'm not a victim and I don't need you. Now the second part of that is that, so when that happened, obviously I had to get out of an apartment. It was the middle of the month, couldn't find an apartment anywhere, so I just called up one of these room rental services where you can move in that day. So they call me, they're like, oh, we have a place in 28th Street in Manhattan, great neighborhood. I show up there, it's in the projects. So I lived in the projects for a month. Let me tell you, you cannot live in the projects and come out of there a liberal. You just can't. I got to see firsthand the effects of Democrat policies that liberals have. Liberals are the ones who built a wall. They built it around themselves to see the reality of things. They talk so lovely and theoretical, and they don't see the damage that it does in real life. So the woman who I was renting a room in her apartment was my age, 4 kids, 4 different fathers, most of them in prison. And when I asked her, what do you do? She said, I'm in the system. And the thing is, a lot of Republicans of years past did things that I don't agree with, where they would talk about like the welfare queens and they would blame them. And I think that is totally wrong because a lot of these people are born into the system and have never known anything else. Yep. And it is just setting people up for such failure. And these liberals who talk all about the welfare state would never be in a 20-mile radius of it. So anyway, I started asking questions. I started realizing how psychotically politically correct everyone was becoming. I'd never been called these names before in my life, and now suddenly I was a gay, half-Jew, racist, sexist, homophobic Nazi every day. So, and the more questions I asked, and the more I woke up to these things, the more hate I got, the more people I started losing friends, and eventually I just lost like every friend I ever had, except 1 or 2 maybe. It's a cult. We all know it's a cult. That's how they operate. Yeah. Anyway, let me look at my points. I think that's about it. Sorry. Anyway, I think what we're doing here is really important because we are showing that gay people, trans people, LGBT people have a choice. You do not have to march in lockstep. It is today such a community that is based in conformity. Look like them, act like them, speak like them. It is like a gated community that you can be kicked out of at any moment for looking, speaking, acting, or thinking the wrong way. Or let's be honest, if you gain 5 pounds. Anyway, that's about all. Really quick, I just want to say I am so grateful to be up here with these 3 icons. I'm truly so grateful. This is the honor of my life, and you guys are amazing.
Well, first of all, I've never been called an icon by anybody before, so I just really appreciate that. So I have. Well, there you go. So if you do not know me, this is a little bit of the story about how I became Rob Smith, America's favorite black gay Republican. That is trademarked, by the way. WalkAway. important thing about me is my military service. It is the thing that changed my life. It is the thing that defines who I am. And this is kind of my path to being a conservative Republican. I am a Republican. So I served for 5 years in the United States Army under Don't Ask, Don't Tell. And if you know what Don't Ask, Don't Tell is a law that said that LGBT soldiers could not serve openly. If you were out about being LGBT in the military, you would be kicked out, removed, all this stuff. So I did this from 17 to 22, deployed to Iraq, had another deployment to the Middle East. Now, fast forward to probably around 2010, I got involved in the activist movement to repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell. I was arrested at the White House protesting Don't Ask, Don't Tell under the Obama administration. The repeal legislation was passed. I was at the Department of the Interior about a month later to when they signed the repeal legislation. Around this time, I had become a hardcore gay activist. And what I did was I went to a lot of LGBT student groups all across the country, colleges, campuses, all that stuff. And I would talk to them about my experience. I would talk to them about LGBT rights. I would talk to them about why it is so important for them to be out and loud and proud about who they are, right? And something that I will always believe. The message that I always took to the LGBT kids was empowerment. Because nobody is empowered by being a victim. I never said that you are a victim because you're gay. I never said that you are weaker because you're gay. I never said that there's anything that you cannot do because you are LGBT. Now, when I was doing all of this stuff, it's like the ground started shifting under me. You know, this was around 2012, 2013, when all the messaging started to become about how victimized we were. And we are such victims, and it was this victimhood complex, and you know, Candace Owens talks a lot about that. Now, this was all going on, and I started to get the sense that there were some things that you could not say in the LGBT community, or else you would be deplatformed, right? So I could not be critical about some transgender ideology, or I could not be critical about my own race. I couldn't say things about like black people need father in the home. You know, I couldn't say things like that, or else I would be excommunicated from what you guys have said was a cult, is what it turned into. Now, my red pill moment was during after the Post Orlando terrorist attack, when a terrorist walked into Post Orlando and killed 49 gays and lesbians, right? This happened while the election campaign was still going on. And being a good little lefty at the time, even though I was leaning conservative, I expected for a lot of the Democrats to support us, to protect us, because this is our community that had been attacked. And I was waiting for them to say something. I was waiting for them to forcefully condemn terrorism. What they did not do was condemn terrorism. What they did do was say, okay, we may not be able to call this terrorism. We don't know what this is yet. Let's not be Islamophobic. Let's not do all this stuff. And then I saw the LGBT media, Jonathan Capehart, and a lot of other people peddle the absolute fiction that the Post-Orlando terrorist attacker was somehow a closeted gay man, and that attack was based on anything other than terrorist ideology. Now that is completely false, and to this day I still have one or two people that come up to me on social media and say, oh, well, the Post-Orlando terrorist was a self-hating homophobe because it's closeted gay. That is absolutely not true. So that was my red pill moment. That's when I decided, F this, these people are not here for me, because the Democrat Party, to me, doesn't really care about black people, doesn't care about gay people, doesn't care about any of these other people that they want to have the big tent for. What they seek to do is control. What they seek to do is control your life, control your thoughts, to make you feel like you're a victim. So last year I did my own WalkAway video, which went far and wide, which was great. I came out via a Daily Mail profile. I'm a part of the Blexit movement. I speak out about that. I speak out on Fox News all the time, because for me, it is so important, and I will wrap this up right now. It is so important for me so that everybody out there knows that LGBT people don't have to be Democrats, black people don't have to be Democrats, Muslims don't have to be Democrats, Latinos don't have to be Democrats. You do not have to be Democrat just because you are not a straight white man. Period. Woo! And so that's how I became America's favorite black gay Republican, hopefully yours.
everyone. So, first of all, I have to thank every single person for coming. I had such low-key anxiety over this event because obviously there was so much drama with the last venue and with the bad press and just so much craziness. And I think that, I don't know how many of you guys saw it, but I went across the street and I tried to speak to the protesters. And one thing that became so apparent was the radical difference between them and us. Every single one of us is in here unmasked. No one's covering their faces. There's cameras, we're all being open and we're talking. Is my mic on? Oh, cut out, okay. And they're all across the street screaming and they're covering their faces, and I think that says a lot. I asked them if they wanted to talk and none of them wanted to talk, so I think it's really cool that we're all here, and I thank you guys for coming out despite all the craziness. So, my story is a little different. I feel like all of you guys do such like amazing like groundwork stuff and like real life stuff, and I'm like filming videos from my house. But I'm a YouTuber. So growing up, I'm trans. Hi, I'm trans. And I started realizing I was trans in my later teenage years, and I started making a ton of friends in the LGBT community, people that at the time were a great comfort to me, people who I could confide in, relate to, etc. It was great. And then I got into college, and college was a huge changing time for me as far as how I viewed the world. I started realizing that there was no room on my liberal college campus for any disagreement about anything, in the slightest. I did a video about this, but I had one experience that really made me start questioning a lot. So I was in a psychology class, and the professor was very much a militant feminist, very liberal, and was very unabashed about sharing that, which is fine. I guess I can respect she shared it up front, but it was a little frustrating sometimes. And we had a class on domestic violence and women who are victims of domestic violence. And the whole room, all the women were going around telling their story. It was very heartfelt. I was crying, bitch, like everyone was crying. And at the end of the class, towards the end of the class, there was a guy who stood up and he wanted to tell his story. And he started talking about how he escaped a situation with an ex who had tried to murder him, had beaten him, had cheated on him, just abused him really badly. And the entire class of feminists, liberals, etc., burst into laughter at his story. And I was like really, really taken aback by that, and it really made me start questioning the people that I was surrounding myself with, because all my friends were leftists at this point. And then, because of that experience, I made a YouTube video talking about it. And then overnight, my channel kind of took off, changed my life overnight, and changed my friends overnight. So I started being more and more open about my political beliefs, about the things, liberal ideology I disagreed with, which at the time was not even as much as now. I feel like I've probably gotten further right from my experience of being open about my opinions. But at the time, I lost every single friend I ever had. I had friends that would go to our other friend's house and they'd sit in a circle and watch my videos and like laugh and like talk shit. And it was just very eye-opening to realize that these people were not my friend because I was trans and they wanted to be there for me and support me, and they were my friend because they thought I was liberal. And I think that speaks volumes about what happened at the LGBT Center. I tweeted them and I said, I think you guys, if you're gonna, ban us from stepping foot on the premises because of our political beliefs, you shouldn't be called the LGBT Center. You should be called the Liberal LGBT Center.
Preach!
Because at the end of the day, every single person on this panel is still LGBT. And I personally, when I started my transition, the LGBT Center was a great resource to me. They actually sent an escort with me to court to change all my documents legally. And to know that same organization 3 years later is putting out slander and just like crazy stuff about me and banning me is really, really interesting. I don't personally feel like anyone up here has ever done or said anything too crazy to like talk in public. I think, it was just disappointing, but I really think that we're on the cusp of something different. I think the fact that this event is even happening shows that there's a lot changing in the country. I can't even tell you how many emails, messages, comments I get from people telling me, I'm trans, I'm gay, I'm bi, whatever. And I cannot be open about almost anything I believe politically because I'd lose all my friends, I'd lose respect, I would fail classes. I remember I had a rant. I had a teacher who made us do a BuzzFeed quiz about, it was to determine how racist we were. It was the How Racist Are You BuzzFeed quiz. And so when she assigned that, I was like, I'm not doing that. Like, I know who I am as a person, I know I'm not racist, why would I do that? So I wrote an entire report on how stupid and unscientific it was, and I failed the class. So to that I say, like, maybe sometimes in college courses, like, lie a little bit just to pass the class and then affect change later when you have your degree. I don't know where I was. Yeah, I think it's really, really cool you all are here because I think things are changing in the country. I go to, I live in Hollywood and there's a bunch of gay clubs there and I like going to them. And I get people coming up to me all the time who are like, on the low, like, hey, come over. I really love your channel. I really love your, stuff online, but I don't want to be seen with you. And it's okay, I get it, because at the end of the day, it was kind of a sacrifice to make political videos and be open about who I am, but not everyone is like willing to do that. I totally get that, but yeah, I think that's about it. That was my story as well, and thank you guys for coming on. I really appreciate it.
All right, it's all about you now. Let us know how much what you think of us. Let us have it. Melissa in the back is going to bring the microphones to you, so just one moment. And please just remember, we'd like to talk to as many people as possible. So.
Good question for Blaire.
Testing. Those ones work.
I wanted to say that I am centrist conservative, but I'm coming from the perspective of once being a communist, but realizing how evil it truly was, and now I see that other people, and I thought I was like the only I don't, for lack of a better term, converted conservative. I thought I was the only one because the rest of my family remained left. So it's nice seeing other people like me.
Thank you for coming. You were really sweet outside too. Thank you for coming.
This has eerie shades of my first AA meeting. Hi, my name is Nash. I'm a conservative.
Thank you for coming.
I want to say thank you guys so much for coming. So many questions that I would like to ask that aren't time, but I want to say one thing. I'm an artist. I tour. I'm all over the world. I'm all over the deep south, especially when you're not supposed to be peeing in the ladies' room or something like that. I want to tell you, the world is ready for us. The world is not afraid of us. They might not understand us, but if we are kind, and if we just behave ourselves, the world will accept us. And I'm not worried about a small fringe of crazy people as much as I am people just accepting us, being curious enough about us, and us being kind enough to allow them to accept us. Donald Trump, say what you want to say about him. He's not perfect, he's human, we're all human. But this is something that needed to happen. Thank you, Brandon, for coming. Thank you for Blaire for posting it and being here. And just be yourselves, be strong, be positive, and love, don't hate.
I would add one thing to that. I'm going to tell you a story, and it's a very small one. An executive at a big 3 cable network told me to my face when I was thinking about coming out as a black gay conservative last year, oh, they're not ready for that. Like, nobody's ready for it. If you think you're going to go on Fox News, like, they'll never have you on there. So the people are ready for it. It's just all the quote-unquote powers that be that are not. Okay?
Amen.
We've been ready.
Hello. Hi.
Hello.
I met you, Blaire, in DC. I moved to New York now. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, work in the media, not the liberal media. Thank you. I'm also an ex-Muslim. It's approaching 10 years. I love an ideology that is extremely homophobic, transphobic, racist, misogynistic. I can go on. But what I want to know is, what is the unholy alliance between the LGBT community and Islam?
Here we go.
Let me take that on. This is because the unholy alliance and the unholy alliance between the LGBT and Islam is what I call the cult of intersectionality, right? So the cult of intersectionality and the rules of intersectionality say that you cannot ever criticize any person of color ever, or somebody that's of a different religion, or a black person, or anything like that, because if you do, it's Islamophobic or it's racist or anything like that. So when anybody questions any of the ideology of Islam, that can be very homophobic at times. When people are doing things like all of these laws that criminalize homosexuality all around the world, like what they have in common is that these are majority Muslim countries. And the cult of intersectionality on the left says that you cannot say that without being Islamophobic. And that's what it is. They're afraid to say it because they're afraid that somebody is going to call them Islamophobic. So words like Islamophobic, racist, transphobic, those are shut down words. They are intended to shut down conversations. I believe that I can have as a gay man a real conversation about some of the homophobia that is inherent to that without being Islamophobic. I truly believe that. But that's what it is. They're just afraid because it breaks the intersectionality rules.
Yeah, I would have on that one too. I totally agree with Rob, and he basically just used a better term than I did earlier. That's what I was describing when I said something about the backroom trading of favors in the liberal world. I think the cult of intersectionality is basically exactly what I was describing. And when I was still a liberal, but one of the things that again just felt so wrong to me was, I think it was around 2015, the country was having a debate about whether we were going to take in Syrian refugees. It might have been 2015, 2016. And I remember all of these people asking very reasonable questions. What is the vetting process? What do we know about their ideology and background? And all I heard from people around me were, you're a racist, you're a racist, you're a bigot, you're a bigot. And I thought to myself, these are really reasonable, rational questions that anybody with common sense should be asking. And what I realized is there's just such an animosity amongst liberals they think that the biggest demon in this country are straight, white, Christian people. And so if you have any opinion or just simply ask a question about someone who's a person of color, a gay person, somebody outside of the Christian faith, it's automatically assumed it's because there's something morally wrong and deficient with you, and you should never ever ask a reasonable question surrounding anything like that. That's what it is.
And if I could just add something to that. Another part that shows how... Can you guys hear me? Yeah. Cool, sorry. Back? Okay, cool. Something that shows how their ideology really makes no sense is Islam is a set of ideas. It is an ideology, it is not a race. And this is something that I never understand about liberals, is that Obama took us from 2 wars to 7 wars. He bombed the shit out of mostly Muslim countries. In Syria, we dropped so many bombs that the US actually ran out of bombs. They didn't say boo about that.
That's true.
But they actually think that drawing a picture of Muhammad is worse than that. So according to them, we can kill them, but we can't question their ideas.
Right.
Hi, this is but oh, it's magic. I told Blaire that I actually went to, in my old school, I'm trans, and immediately when I came out, I was kind of flocked to by like a lot of the SJW community, and I remember this one non-binary person sitting down and telling me that
a bi man could be straight if he wanted to be, like, identified as it, but also telling another kid beside us that sexuality isn't a choice, which kind of confused me. But also, I wanted to come here today because I'm very against, like, us and theming everything, because I think that's how most of the political problems in the world started. And I was very confused with WalkAway, because on one stand, when I started to come out as more conservative, my father literally told me that, like, he didn't disown me, but he was pretty mad when I started to defend, when I said I was happy about Trump pushing in the law that promoted free speech, like for universities to get free speech. I really hope to be a politician someday. I intern at the state capitol, and I actually sign people up to vote over the summers. And recently, I think when I really started to kind of be more conservative was when I went in my friend's dad's car to go home and get ice cream from school. The first question he asked me was, "Are you Democrat or Republican?" Like literally the first question to a 9th grader. And I just went, "I'm kind of in the middle, I don't really know." And he said, "Well, good, because if you were Republican, I would have kicked you out of the car." So that's, sorry, I feel like I'm kind of stumbling, but I always been the type of person to tell my opinion no matter what, and I felt like recently I've had to do that more with people just not listening to me at all. When I tell them, like when I give them legit evidence, they don't listen. And I was wondering if, okay, so Thomas Jefferson has a quote, because I'm a very constitutionalist person. I hope to be a constitutional lawyer before I'm a politician. And there's a quote from Thomas Jefferson that's basically, how do you get a person to agree with something that does not benefit them? And with all the victim carding and stuff like that, it benefits them because it gives them basically the right to say, well, I get this step up in the world, you can do this for me because I'm like this. And how do you talk someone out of that in a way? I guess that's my question.
You don't. People have to get red pilled for themselves. You can't. It's like talking to a brick wall. You can present people with facts and data until, for whatever, but they have to come to this themselves, I think.
No, I agree.
Also, I want to say it's amazing all the things that you've done, and you're so young. Like, you are someone who sounds
Hello. Hi.
Hi, John.
I made a video in response to the cancellation, if you saw it.
I did see it, thank you,
Yeah.
yes.
I'm a transgender man. I've been on testosterone 8 months, going on 9.
Amen.
A lot of things that made me question liberalism and stuff like that. Like in my school right now, it's only one ideology. You can't not be a Democrat, especially on college campuses. Otherwise, you are automatically a Nazi against black people, trans people. And when my professors is a non-binary person and said that they're transgender, and I'm in the class and no one has any idea that I'm actually transgender because I cis-pass, and apparently that's bad and doesn't represent trans people, even though it's about transitioning and I have gender dysphoria, the actual thing that trans people have. And So in my class, someone came up to me and was like, "What's up, man?" Like a friend, and he's like, "Wait, you're a guy, right? Because in this day and age, you never know." Not knowing that I'm actually trans, and so I'm like, "Oh my God, this is really happening to me." Like he has no idea. It's because of the misrepresentation of trans people in the media. That it's just someone that puts on a pink shirt and says that they're a girl or a blue shirt. And so I'm like, do I even say anything? Because what if he's actually transphobic? And I'm just like, I'm transgender. And he looked at me like I had 7 heads because he had no idea. And I'm like, that's what the media doesn't want to show you. They want to divide it. And if you're an actual trans person, you're automatically transphobic and homophobic for not abiding by the democratic SJW ideologies. And just like Blaire about the LGBT centers, I went there for great resources for my letter for testosterone top surgery. But then I go to like trans groups and all of a sudden I'm talking about abortion and immigration and all these policies that now since I'm a trans man, I have to agree with because that's just how they group you. And me saying that I'm not a victim and I'm not oppressed is somehow bad because that's what they don't want me to say. And I'm transphobic for thinking that there's 2 genders. I'm homophobic for not being a gay man because since being trans has to be a sexuality too, and LGBT things have become so over-sexualized and personality traits. And I'm transphobic if I don't want to date a trans woman. Sorry, Joey, but I would date Blaire.
So would I.
But yeah.
If I wasn't married, you know.
And so it becomes very hard. It becomes very hard to have a voice, and because then I'm deemed homophobic and transphobic just for being someone that supports Trump, and I voted for Trump, but I can never say that out loud. And so I just want to say thank you, because with every one hater, there's 100 people who are vocalizing and drowning them out. So thank you for representing the silent majority.
Hey, I just want to ask, I really want to hear from people who have disagreements with us too. So please, if there's anybody who wants to ask a question who has...
We're the haters.
Yeah, we're the haters.
Oh, you gotta be there.
They're off the street.
Who's the hater here?
Yeah, Melissa.
There was so much protesting against this event. You know, I'd never been called a racist, self-hating Nazi transphobe before. Yes, yes.
Hi, everybody. Hello. This is off. Hello. Personal.
These mics.
It's collusion.
Here, take mine.
Thank you. So my name is Anthony DeVolder. I'm a New York City resident. I've recently founded a group called United for Trump, so if you guys want to follow, that would be awesome. My question's directed for both Blaire and Brandon. Well, Brandon's an idol to all of us. Thank you. You're welcome. But Blaire, I have a question. How do you think that as a trans woman and a conservative, you can help educate other trans people from not having to follow the narrative that the media and the Democrats put forward, and how can Brandon incorporate that into WalkAway in more in depth? That's my question.
Here's your mic.
So my approach has always been to just live my life authentically, make the videos I want to make, and you know, I don't like using the word educate because I feel like we want to teach anyone anything. I just want to be myself, and I feel like that actually does work wonders. I think that, I mean, I know that I'm inundated with comments all the time saying, you know, I've been a conservative Republican my whole life. I, you know, have been so turned off by the view of trans people in the media and the activists that have, you know, sometimes a larger platform than people like you. And my channel kind of like gives them a different side. So for me, that's my form of activism, if you can call it that. And was there a second part to your question?
It was for Brandon.
Was how to
incorporate it in depth. With
transgenderism?
Exactly.
You can have me at more events.
Well, yeah. Yeah, you are a permanent member of the WalkAway family. So I don't really believe that much in splintering into these sort of like multiple identities and this and that. WalkAway is a movement that's for everybody. We don't care about your gender, your race, your sexual orientation, whatever. We want everyone to take a look at what's going on the left and walk away from the Democratic Party. Now, it's not the conservative side that's targeting minorities. That's happening on the liberal side. So we have to counteract that targeting with our own targeted marketing in a sense. Yes, last night we did a WalkAway Harlow event. Today we're doing a WalkAway LGBT event. At some point we'll probably address the Jewish community because there's a lot of problems that are happening right now in the Jewish community with the Democratic Party, and people are ready to walk away. But the point is that we will, yeah, we've got visual aid right over there. So the point is that we're going to just continue doing what we do. As WalkAway grows in general, the message will grow. More people will understand that this is a movement for all people to walk away from the Democratic Party. But I mean, we'll just continue to do more events and get the word out more and more and more. Yeah, but I don't really like the idea of like micro splintering into the like doing a a non-binary black event. You know what? That's not going to happen.
Got it. If I can just jump in real quick, I think Republicans and the right for a long time have been an abject failure at speaking to minorities and show that they accept them.
Amen.
That changes now. That's all.
But the funny thing is that they're, and I'm a Republican now, by the way, so I'm talking shit about my own people here, but they're taking credit for these movements that are happening, which is so funny. They're like, well, minorities are really starting to come around. Like, it's just like no work is happening to make that happen. But yeah, it's funny. Yes, I definitely want to hear from you.
Okay, give me a mic. Hi. How are you? I identify as bi. I think everybody in the room should identify that way.
Why?
I love hearts, not parts. Blaire, you're gorgeous. I don't need to tell you that. You can't birth a child.
Who gives a fuck?
That's fine. But to approach this with sensitivity, I know biological women who have had children, who have birthed their own children, who are still homophobic. So I think that we need to raise women up a little more.
Next?
So what's your question? Why do we all have to be bisexual?
I think it's always going to be harder to be female than it is to be male.
Why?
That's how it's always been.
Explain. Give us facts and evidence to back up your viewpoint.
I'm not disagreeing, I'm just trying to figure out what the question is.
No, but today in 2019, why are women oppressed in ways that men aren't? Explain. Use facts and evidence.
Sir, I would really rather not be victimized. I don't know, like I don't need to feel like this victim. You don't have to speak to me right now. I appreciate it, but I don't feel suggest that we should feel any less to any of the men in this room. Okay, that's about all I have.
I want to say one more thing.
Go ahead.
I actually wanted to transition at one point in my life.
Do it.
And in my case, the gender dysphoria was something that I grew out of. So,
and that's fair. I mean, one of the things that I get slammed for in my social media presence is that I'm very critical not of transgender people, but I'm critical, I call myself gender critical of the ideology that says that just because a child says that they're a boy when they're a girl or whatever, that we immediately have to jump in with the hormones and the surgery and all of this other stuff. Like, and I do not agree with that at all. And if you want to call me a transphobe for that, absolutely. The gender dysphoria is a very real thing that a lot of people are able to grow out of in therapy, and a lot of these kids, 80 to 90%, just become gay and lesbian adults, and that's okay.
I think we all need to be more inclusive, and that's where I'll end things.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Unfortunately, I'm not one of the disagreeing, I'm one of the agreeing. Well, first of all, I'm a really big fan of you, Brandon.
Thank you.
I watched a lot of your WalkAway videos, and when I saw the event for this WalkAway, I'm like, this isn't real. This can't happen. Why? New York City is like such a New York's just a blue state. It's like impossible, and it's so nervous being here. But I like when I came here, I cried. I'm like, this can't be real. This can't be happening. How can like this be possible to have this many people, even if you're not Trump supporters, like centrists, anybody that's not far left and politically correct and screaming in your face that's here, it can't be happening. It's great, and I just you know, like I guess we'll say it's just really hard living in New York City, and I guess I call myself a spy or an anonymous, as we're all are, like hiding and just pretending, yeah, Trump's back, and all that kind of shit. But with everybody, and it's just really hard. But my main question is, I really want to know, and because this event's great and it brings all of us together, and I really like it, and I'm so nervous, I'm sorry. But,
you're doing great. You're doing great.
I want to know if there's any groups in New York City that has like Trump supporters brought together, or other people on that spectrum brought together, like where I could meet even you guys, like just anybody in the crowd, like, and just hang, you know, that'd be really great.
Join the WalkAway Republicans! This is Ashton. He's the head of the Log Cabin Republicans here in New York City. Please talk to him after this event. You'll meet a lot of friends here in New York City. Yeah. Statewide.
But also, like, I have to add, get him, like, this is the bluest of the blue. When I came out as conservative, yes, I did some stuff with the Log Cabin Republicans, but also the Metropolitan Republican Club on the Upper East Side. We just elected a new president that is a young gay millennial. It's not a gay thing, it's a Republican thing. And we have just brought a lot of new energy into the Met Club on the Upper East Side. So go to the website, like, come to the events. We need this young Republican energy. And there are lots of different Republican groups in the blue.
What's
So get involved. The Metropolitan Republican Club. There's the Log Cabin Republicans. There's so many different organizations for people like us to mobilize and meet up and connect with one another in this city. You just gotta get out there and find them. You know, like,
what was his name again? The
Ashton.
We're actually having an event at the Bar Stanley at the Neiman Marcus on April 18th. So at Neiman Marcus at Hudson Yards. So
Fabulous. And listen, everybody too, go to walkawaycampaign.com. We have state groups in every state now. If you go there, you can click a button, join the movement. You'll be redirected to our social network. And you can find people all across the country and the world, but also specifically in New York State. We can do meetups, and you know, we'll keep this energy going. We'll keep this alive.
Ashley, you need to talk.
Yeah. Yes. All right, you bring it on.
Somebody give this, Melissa, can you give him a microphone, please? This gentleman right here.
Alright, so my question is probably not something that's been covered, but I'm not outside with those protesters, I'm here to talk, but I have some reservations that I really wanted to ask Brandon about.
Sure. First of all, can we give him applause for coming in here? Thank you. I really respect you for that.
I mean, I'm always here for a dialogue, but what really worries me is that you're talking about how I noticed in a lot of your videos, you know, Democrats are the real homophobes.
Yeah.
It's a prevalent theme, and I have two prongs to this question, but really one of them is that the only states that ever passed gay marriage before it was mandated to them were all blue states. They were all Democratic states, and all of these states decided not to pass gay marriage, and it even opposed it, like Alabama or red states. So it's really already hard for me to think that the Democrats are the real homophobes, but then when I look at the finances of the WalkAway campaign, you received $10,000, the largest donation you received, doubling the second highest in startup costs from a man who's known for allegations that the Obama administration was poisoning the water to turn people gay. claim that it stemmed from.
He's talking about Alex Jones.
Yeah. Yeah, you that guy. You took $10,000 in startup costs from him. How am I supposed to believe that Democrats are the real homophobes when you took money from someone who espouses homophobic conspiracy theories?
These are great questions. Thank you. I'm going to start with the second one first. Alex Jones had me on his show. This is when the WalkAway campaign was up and running. I was fighting very, very hard to get control of the movement because the hashtag, I'm not meaning to be douchey when I say this, but the hashtag became so popular so quickly, and nobody had any idea what WalkAway actually was, who started it, what it was about, and I was fearful at that time that the hashtag would trend and go away, and then the movement would never happen. So I was talking to anybody and everybody that I could to try to help people understand what the movement was. Now, I'm not making any excuses. I like Alex Jones. I think he's a nice guy. And by the way, he has a wicked sense of humor, and he was joking when he said a lot of those things that you're describing right now. These are jokes. Alex Jones is not a homophobic man. He likes me a lot. And in fact, I don't know why he would give a gay man $10,000 if he hates gay people so much, but that's another question. Anyway, the reason why Alex Jones gave me $10,000 is because I went on his show and I told him how important I thought it was that before the midterm elections, we have a walkaway march on Washington so that gay people, transgender people, white people, black people, all different types of people could come together and march together to show that the WalkAway campaign and people walking away from the Democratic Party is for everybody. He thought it was such a good idea that he said, I think that this march has the potential to stop us today, and I encourage everyone listening to match my donation. That's how I got $10,000 from Alex Jones, because he wanted peace in this country. Number one. Number two, very quickly, because I can make this really fast. And this point that I'm about to make applies to just about everything I'm going to say. A lot of gay people come to me and they say, how can you support the Republican Party when they've been so against gay rights and gay marriage and this and that, and the Democrats have been so for it? First, I repeat something that I said earlier. Gay marriage, marriage equality, civil rights exist not because of the Democratic Party, but because of all the hard work that was done by activists in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s who lived and died their activism so we can have these rights. The Democratic Party came in at last minute when public acceptance of gay people was past 50%, about 56, 57%, and they said, we are going to be the people who come in, sweep in, and take the credit for all the hard work that those activists did. They did nothing. They put a stamp on a letter that was already written and signed by activists who did all the hard work. And my final point is, you do not owe allegiance for the rest of your life to a political party just because they did something that they should have done a long time ago. You have the right to change your mind.
Hello. Hello. I'm Celeste from Nashville. I just wanted to say thank you for coming out here and doing this event, because it's honestly wonderful to have dialogue, because so many times we don't talk to each other, we don't speak, we stand on sides. It's either the left or the right. You're either conservative or you're liberal. And it hurts me to see that, because there's so much more than that. I've never been liberal. I've always thought for myself. And I thank my parents for that, because my parents are older. They're both 65. They went through a lot. I have a black bisexual boyfriend, and I'm so glad that they are not hateful of that, because they could have easily been. When in his family, they don't even know he's bisexual, because they would disown him. Not only would they disown him for that, they would disown him for the beliefs that we have, the far right, the far left, whatever. I think anybody should be whoever they want. I think that we should accept people and love people. Right. And that's why I stand on the left, and I understand these people. And then I stand on the right because I understand logic and humanity. Would be, how do we come together? Because I'm from Nashville, and I've been in Memphis. Most of my friends are black, most of my friends are Latina, from the Dominican Republic, and they have to deal with a lot. One of my best friends, I've only been here for a month, from Brooklyn. She told me I was the only white girl who's ever been nice to her, and it fucking broke my heart, excuse my language. And I just want to know how we bridge this gap, because we
are really not different. The amount of people, even you said that you were red pill. I've never had to take a pill because I think for myself. And I think that's important, that we shouldn't stand on sides, that we should stand together. And I want to know how you guys really plan, instead of all these trigger words like conservatism and socialism and whatever you want to talk about, how do we come together as humans to fix this problem of a civil war being...
I have the answer. I have the answer. That I'm going to tell you how this country is going to come together. Donald Trump gets reelected as president in 2020. And that is not a joke. I say this with 100% sincerity, because you are very sincere. And I say this with 100% sincerity because when Donald Trump is reelected president in 2020, people will realize that some people are Democrats, some people are Republicans. They will realize that a group of people have come together to vote for America and support America, and those people support America no matter what their race or gender or sexual orientation or gender identity or religion or all that stuff is. And so the powers that be that seek to divide us will have to step back and say, whoa, this is not a fluke. Something else different is going on here. Now we got to start talking to each other again.
Right on.
I truly believe it. Truly.
I want to hear from you two too. Do you have an answer to that?
I think just dialogue. So one of the things that I've made a point to do on my channel that I feel like honestly a lot of political commentators don't do is actually have people on to debate and talk about things, because I feel like too often people get caught up in only wanting to talk to people they agree with. So I got a lot of tweets after the mess with the last venue, people being like, okay, but if you guys, are not liberal or whatever, why would you want to have the event at the LGBT center? And my response was, well, not everyone only wants to talk to people who agree with them. Like, to me, it's more impactful to have something like this at the LGBT center. Would have been cool, but.
Yeah, would have been cool.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Michaela. I just wanted to ask all of you, since you guys have some experience with the social media, entertainment businesses, what advice do you have for someone like myself? I'm white, Hispanic, and Japanese, bisexual, and married to a man who has 2 gay dads, and I'm from Southern California, and I live in fucking Staten Island. I'm also a playwright, a community that does not welcome any sort of dissent when it comes to LGBTQ anything.
I'm on it.
What advice do you have for someone like me who is closeted with their sexuality with their family and closeted with their political opinions with their friends?
Wow.
You have to come to a point where you just don't give a fuck. So for me, I have experienced both sides of the coin. I've been disowned because of my political beliefs. I've also been disowned because I'm trans. I don't really talk about it publicly on my channel, but my entire dad's side of my family does not talk to me because I'm trans. And then I have people, on my mom's side that won't be seen with me because of my videos in politics. So to me, you just have to come to a place where you're like, this is me. I don't give a fuck. I'm not going to compromise my quality of life and being who I am to give a facade of what you want me to be, basically. So just to have the confidence, basically.
I would say one thing, and this is something I tried, for God's sake, it's my God. I would say one thing, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I would say one thing that I always try to remind myself, because it really gets hard. These people start to make you think that you're crazy. You start questioning, am I really a Nazi? Am I homophobic? So I would just say to people, because that is how they are able to control people and manipulate your emotions, because people are so afraid of being called those words. So I would just say, everybody needs to speak out. And remember, there is no such thing as an insult. Something is either true or it is not true. And if something about you is untrue, it will still not be true no matter how many times they say it.
Yes.
It's not what they call you, it's what you answer to.
Great. Hi.
Hi. Okay.
Oh, so cute.
Hi guys. So I've lived in New York for a year, and I came here to become an actor, so I'm in your industry, and it's fucking hard, man, and it's always perfectly resonated with me. Now, like she said, you have to not give a fuck, you know? And just bear in mind, this is from an alternate perspective, but I'm actually the friendly, straight white male that your neighborhood liberal warned you about. But I came here to show my support. And now I'm a big fan of Blaire, so you know, and Brandon, I saw some of your stuff on social media, and good stuff.
Now you're not straight anymore.
Google Mallow, one of us, you know? but anyway, yeah, so there are two things that really disgust me, two issues, and then these are going to boil down to my question. All right, so first of all, and you know, when there's a person of color, bear in mind I'm also a tad left-leaning, I'm not going to lie, but I don't really ascribe to my fellow theater community's views for the most part. I'm more like your fellow YouTubers that you really respect the views of, like Armored Skeptic, Shoe on Head, and Chris Raycon. But anyway, first of all, when there's a person of color that has decided to become a conservative Republican, or they support Trump, then no matter what race they are, no matter what gender, no matter what orientation, whether they're non-binary or whether they're trans, whatever, they're always referred to as Uncle Toms. I mean, isn't that despicable? And and
if you read the book, Uncle Tom was a hero.
Yeah, exactly. And the second thing, this may hit close to home for some people, but and I understand it does. But and I'm sorry if this happened to you, but in the wake of the Me Too movement, when Brett Kavanaugh was sworn in, I decided to speak my mind and say that I'm a believer, despite being a liberal, I'm a believer in due process and fair trial. And innocent people so I wrote that, and on the Onion's website, which has some funny stuff sometimes, and I'm sure you agree with me, but the fans, you can imagine how they reacted. Yeah, all these different, every insult in the book, just, you're an incel, you're a neckbeard, you live with your mom, you're a loser, you're an idiot. You good? And you rape somebody. But yeah, and my favorite is you live in your mom's basement and you play Fortnite all day and eat Go-Gurt. Liberal insult. So my question is, do you see a pattern in those two different kinds of beliefs and behaviors? Like that it boils down to the social justice proponent belief is run entirely on emotion. You know, and it's become a political philosophy, very much in quotes. But isn't rationality needed to develop that? So, but what do you guys think about that? How does one construct a party or a philosophy or an ideology on emotion? That much emotion.
They don't.
We're speaking.
They don't, because there is no ideology.
Yeah.
That's one question.
And I think something. I think something that's important to point out too is what Rob said before about how leftists have all of these rules so that you can never question a gay person or a person of color. Those rules go right out the window when one of them disagrees with them. Because right here, all week we've been called a transgender transphobe, a black white supremacist, a gay Jewish Nazi, and all of the above over here.
Hey guys, I just want to let everybody know we only have about 15 minutes, so please just try to keep the questions quick so we can answer as many as possible.
What is something spicy?
My question is for Blaire White. as a trans woman, how does it make you feel to see politicians like Donald Trump push anti-LGBT legislation, like not allowing transgenders to serve in the military?
The trans military issue, I can see both sides of it. I think that if you research the amount of things that disqualify you from being able to serve in the military, you can basically have a hangnail and like never be able to fight in the military. And so I can absolutely understand why people would think that someone with gender dysphoria, which gives you a heightened increased chance of suicidal tendencies and actions, is not probably the best thing to fight on the front lines. I will say I wish it didn't extend to like cooks in the kitchen and like shit like that. But I see both sides on it.
Well, I'll jump in on that because I actually was in the military. And when she says that, you know, she wishes that it didn't extend to cooks in the kitchen, the thing about it is that I don't support an outright ban. I think that there's a little bit more conversation that needs to be had. But to say that every transgender person at every state of transition can do any job in the military is just not true. It's just not. It is not true. So you have to start from that. You have to start from the fact that it is a very complicated and complex conversation that so few people are able to have.
And I'm not, because I know nothing about the military.
You didn't want to pick and choose, you wanted an outright ban.
Actually, that's not true, and I'm going to pick up right here. See, this actually leads us to, I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole because we don't have enough time. The liberal media is lying to you every chance that they get, and what actually happened, if you read the memo, don't listen to what CNN says, or Anderson Cooper, or MSNBC, or Rachel Maddow. Read the actual memo that Donald Trump wrote. And what Donald Trump wrote, even the security class is right there. What Donald Trump wrote was a memo saying that Barack Obama, in less than 6 months left in his term in office, signed an executive orders lifting the ability to remove any trans people from the military. Now, this never happened before, so it was literally only a period of less than 6 months that any trans person was allowed to join the military. Never existed before. And all Donald Trump said was, I'm putting the kibosh on Barack Obama's executive order until the top generals in the military have time to conduct a study to ask the question, is this having any negative impact on the military? And he says in the memo, if they get back to me and they say this is fine, it's not a problem. But until then, I'm putting a hold on what Barack Obama did. It was never a trans ban. It was a temporary measure put in place to conduct a study for the interest of military readiness and lethality. That's what he said. Read the bill, or read the memo.
In the plaid, right there in the back. In the plaid, right there. Right there. Yeah. Just shout it out.
I'm Alex. So I go to school in Upper East Side in New York. It's called Manhattan College. I don't know if anyone's heard of it. It's very liberal. It's very small. So basically, I got red pilled last year by my significant other who's here with me. And it's been a crazy experience the past year, kind of just coming to terms with like what it's going to be like if I'm going to lose friends. I've lost so many friends. Everybody else has, as I'm sure. But what I've really had to grapple with is the idea that conservatives aren't cool. You look at TV, you look at the media, everywhere, and basically in the content, across the board, conservatives aren't cool. What's cool is, you know, fitting like these identity quotients and like ticking off the boxes of all these different things. And so what I want to encourage people that tell me that they're actors, that they're playwrights, go out and produce content, not just content for the internet, real work content. Books, plays, photography, anything that you create with a conservative lean. That's what they do. Every single play that I've read in school, I'm a theater history major, great choice on my part, but has been coming from this leftist point of view. 3 out of 5 of my professors this semester tell me they are Marxists, one of which says they are a queer Marxist. I don't exactly know what that means or how those two things go together, but that's fine. Believe what you want to believe. But I'm here with my partner in crime today as well. His name is Gil. He goes to my school with me, and we are attempting to grow from the inside of our institution institutional change. Not just, you know, talking to the people, but creating a platform within my school. We're calling it Liberty Circle Social Club. Because God forbid, it's not just a free speech group. God forbid I open a Young Republicans Club or a conservative group. That's immediately shut down. But my question is, what can I do without getting myself completely kicked out of the social circles of my school, which I basically already have, and not that I ever was really in or anything, but you know, to really create an impact. What are like events that I can do? What can I put out there to really help change minds without, you know, setting anybody off?
If you're afraid to get excommunicated from your social groups because of who you are, then there is no impact that you can make. Because you can't start making an impact until you let all of that shit go.
Amen.
And that's just real. You have to let all of that stuff go if you really want to start making an impact. And I do believe that conservatives need to start going for the culture.
Yeah, look at how many of us there are, like who are, you know, feeling like we're alone, feeling like you're the only one, and you're not. Everybody's just waiting for somebody to say something that hundreds of people are already, thousands of people are already thinking and feeling. They're just waiting for somebody to say it. Just be bold and say it. I say this all the time in the WalkAway campaign. It's time for the silent majority to become unsilent. There's so many of us. We just have to push back and speak up.
And thank you, Rob, for saying that, because even standing here, that is something I really struggle with, but the constant fear every day of what people think. And for so long now, I've really been in denial that, like, I don't think Trump is that bad.
He's amazing.
Hi, I'm Rocco. I'm from Queens. I'm a supporter of free speech, and I'm a writer too. And one of the things that I've seen so much of lately is people wanting to be victims and people wanting to be oppressed. And it confuses me because I would imagine that if you're in a place of struggle, you want to get to a point where things get better and things improve. But it seems like so many people now want to stay in that place of struggle. And I can understand why politicians and people who are in powerful positions want to encourage that mentality because it keeps them in control. But why do you guys think that the people buy into that? Why do you guys think that the people want to be victims? Why do they want to be oppressed?
Because I think it's easier. I think it's easier to like have things happen to you, feel bad for yourself, and wallow in that. And I think it's harder to say, fuck that. I'm gonna kick down whatever roads I have to kick down, and I'm gonna move past, you know, maybe it's trauma, maybe it's whatever. I've talked about so many things I've been through that I can choose to be a victim by, and I refuse because it's like the high road, but and it is harder, but you're so much more empowered afterwards when you decide that that one thing that happened to you, or that one way in which someone hurt you or did something to you, that's not you. That's what they did, and you have to let it go.
I heard the most amazing thing last night at the Harlow Town Hall. Angela King was there. That's Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s godniece. She told her story in her testimonial, which was so amazing and so compelling. And she said something that was transformative to me. She ended up doing time in prison. When she was very young, she committed a crime. She said, I did it, I got caught, I had to go to prison. But when she got out of prison, she had been in the welfare system, she'd been on food stamps, she'd been on government assistance her entire life. Now, I didn't know this, and I'm just repeating what I heard last night, so I haven't researched this. But what she said led me with the impression that if you have been imprisoned or convicted of a felony, you cannot collect government assistance. That was the impression I got based off of what she said. And she said when I got out of prison, I felt lost because it was like I was so used to being on government assistance and I thought this wasn't fair and life wasn't fair. What was I going to do now? And she said, but not having the option anymore to go on government assistance forced me to step into my greatness. And she said, now I own my own business, I live my own life, I'm successful. She said, this never would have happened if I hadn't been prevented from being able to go on government assistance. That forced her to step into her greatness.
She's the last one? Okay.
Okay, hi, my name's Yadi. I am a bisexual black conservative. I have a question, mainly about groupthink. I'm a sociology major, and in sociology, groupthink is very looked down upon. The layman's term of groupthink in sociology is when smart people do stupid things, make stupid decisions. So my question is, like, why do you think so many liberals believe in groupthink? Why do you think so many liberals believe that in order to be a good person or a moral person, you have to think like them?
They're afraid not to. Right. There are so many people that think the way a lot of people on this panel think, and they are so afraid that if they are open and honest about those beliefs, they will be excommunicated. So it is fear more than anything else.
That's right, and we've gotten to a point now of existing in a state of such extremity that if you go against the grain, you get accused of being the worst things in society that we can be. You being called a racist, being called a homophobe, being called a Nazi. It's not like, I mean, we're all a little uncomfortable sometimes when we're in a situation. Everyone's like, oh my God, it's the best movie I've ever seen. And you're like, really? I thought it sucked. And you don't want to be like the only person who's kind of dissenting. But those are like normal sort of things that happen. But when it comes to politics and liberalism versus conservatism in terms of ideology and conversation, you cannot have a dissenting opinion without getting labeled something that can be damaging to your career, to your academic livelihood, to your family, to your friends. You get labeled the most damaging things that a person can possibly label in our society, and Rob is absolutely right, that causes people to retreat based off of fear. So we've got to break down. Honestly, I feel like we need to get to the point where we just say, fine, I'm a racist, fuck it. Fine. It's like, you know, we just have to somehow be comfortable with that because 99% of the time it's not even true anyway.
Well, Pelosi keeps trying to tell us that we're not moral if we don't believe what the Democratic Party says. We're immoral people. That's what she says all the time. This is not moral for us to believe.
Well, don't fall for that because border security is not immoral. It is not racist. It is not anything else.
Right, not. Why did Pelosi get to decide what's moral or not? She's not the Pope.
She's not. Last question? I think this is the last question. Hi.
Good energy.
Thank you.
So excited to have this event here in New York. I'm so excited that you came and that you guys are here and that we can see you and we can smell you. And
I hope not.
I know I'm saying what everyone else is feeling, but I want to see more events like this. I want to see more non-specifically political talk events. Also, I think it could be a great idea if we have parties. What I'm seeing, I want to get your feel on that if you think that's too superficial.
I love it.
Okay, good. Let's do that.
Circuit party?
Everybody's not going that far. But I've talked to a lot of people here. A lot of people are bisexual, straight, conservative, just walked away. I don't consider myself a conservative yet. But I think it's cool. I do think a conservative is cool. I'm still not just really ready to buy into a party. My question is, because there's such diversity here and we want to bring everyone together, it's hard to just bring it under one banner. I see WalkAway as being sort of like the first step into just getting away from the group thing. But when I try to describe this to people, and I can't describe it, it's just everything. Everyone here is just from everywhere. What are we walking into? That's what I want to.
Okay. So, I get this question a lot. I have since the day I started the campaign, and my plan for this organization, this campaign has never changed. WalkAway is a journey, not a destination. It is up to each and every individual to have their own journey, their own experience, and decide for themselves where they're going to go, what they believe, what they think. There are people in the WalkAway campaign who do not like our president. There are people who do like our president. We have Republicans, independents, libertarians, apolitical people who are just sick and tired of living amongst all the division and all the hatred that's coming from the left. The one thing that we can all agree on is that we need to live in a country where we can have civil discourse, where we can have open conversation and dialogue, and we do not think that we can have that if the political left continues to stay in charge and have the influence over our culture, our education, and our academia the way that they have up until this point. You can believe anything you want to believe, and you can change your mind if you want to.
Yes.
Hell yeah. Is that our last question? Oh, no, not our last question. We're done. We're done. Okay. Why doesn't everyone tell everyone how they can follow you on social media?
Blaire White. I think I'm the only Blaire White, so just Google that.
You're the Blaire White.
Can I get like a Snapchat of all of you guys? Okay, so I'm gonna like, I'll nod, and then you guys just all like scream. That's okay. Okay. Okay, Google me.
You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Rob Smith Online. That is at Rob Smith Online. America's favorite black.
Hey guys, so that was just the coverage of the WalkAway LGBT
long ago, and it's kind of a train wreck, but it's just my name.
town
Mike
hall.
Harlow.
So I was joined here by our admin,
Twitter is Mike
Rachel.
Harlow.
It was an interesting
Instagram,
thing,
Sleepy Harlow,
interesting event.
so-
I hope everybody enjoyed it. Thank
And
you.
my social media handles